Welcome back, Spokane, to another episode of Ever Real Talks. I am Jessica Side with my lovely co-host, Hippie Matt Side. And if you didn't listen last week, you don't know what I'm talking about, but he is kind of turning into a hippie with his hair and his beard. And
maybe a little bit.
We just need to get him some beads.
And Birkenstocks.
He has Birkenstocks.
I do have some Birkenstocks. I should probably wear those.
He doesn't find them to be that comfortable.
I love them.
Yeah.
I'm not a lover of Birkenstocks. I do wear flip-flops a lot.
Before we go too much, stop.
Some board shorts.
I need you to stop. Because we have a special guest and we haven't even introduced her yet. Sharla Jones. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Sharla Jones is with Greenstone, and this is our second episode with Sharla. We really had a great time last week, so please make sure you check that.
And we've decided to title these episodes Ever Real Talks and Greenstone Rocks.
So,
actually, I just made that up, just so everybody knows.
We better let our marketing guy knows that we've got this down. Before we ask you a bunch of new questions, Sharla, I want to just give a basic recap, okay, of last week. So we know that you are the sales manager at Greenstone. Greenstone is I'm going to say a developer, but a developer of communities here in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, and probably, are you in
Post Falls?
Post Falls, okay. Any place else that I like further north?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. I mean, who knows? You guys have probably big plans for taking over the world. Last week, we did talk about a few things that were very interesting to me personally. The relationship between apartments and residential, how you guys, social and economic diversity is really important to you, that you are building homes that are smaller, larger, you have apartments, you make sure that there are parks and trails and all of those things that are so important to a real community, not just a housing development. We talked a little bit about the new garden district near 29th and Southeast Boulevard. And community was a kind of a big overarching thing that we talked about. And I'm sure that we're going to talk about that a little bit more this week. But I just wanted to give everyone kind of a basic summary. Greenstone has got can you tell me how many communities you guys have? Do you know?
Oh, ever or currently?
Currently,
yeah,
sure.
Like ever is a big number, but currently we are building in 7 different communities.
But you have, like, if I were to go as a real estate professional, I've had to do this, go to Greenstone, go to a community and like pull the HOA or CCNRs and those kinds of things. There's got to be I've seen at least 14 of those, or is it more than that?
In terms of communities, I mean, the number would be probably close to 30.
30, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them have been smaller until they started, and now, yes.
I just think it's important for us to understand, a company like yours has a big influence over Spokane. And that's why we wanted to have you on this, because we want to talk about our community. We want to talk to people who are influencing what we're doing, finding out what they're doing. It's an important piece of Spokane's puzzle.
So that we can have your question on Greenstone history first if we want to, but that reminds me, when you talk about the influence that Greenstone has on our Spokane community, I'm part of Washington Realtors Legislative Steering Committee, and I know that Jim Frank, the founder of Greenstone, testified for some new condo legislation that I believe is either slated to pass or did pass. That's going to be, I think, not just it'll be beneficial to these communities that we're talking about and our Spokane community as a whole.
Yes. So that legislation was supposed to pass, and in the end it did not.
Oh, it didn't?
Nope. So we'll be lobbying again to get laws changed, because currently the condo rules make it, I don't say impossible, because very few people are doing it, but very difficult for a developer to build a condo. And that it all stemmed out of Seattle boomed in condos, I don't know, like 15 years ago. And there was lawsuits there because there was some things that went wrong that really a developer should have addressed and didn't. And they overburdened them with rules for any future condo build, and no developer wants to touch it.
Gotcha. So the problem is irresponsibility leads to regulation, and then that regulation then becomes kind of tightens down on the ability to do that. But you still have to address the irresponsibility and make sure that you don't have that same problem moving forward in Spokane.
Yep. You need a middle. So you can't swing too far this way and just let whatever happens happen. And you can't go too far this way where it's like oppressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need the in between. So,
yeah. And condos is an important thing, because I think it's funny, because I think a lot of people think condos, they think downtown condos, $1 million, right? That's what they're thinking. But condos are a really inexpensive way for someone to get into the real estate market and see the appreciation. So yeah, it is kind of like living in an apartment, like physically, but you are still getting the benefit of that appreciating market.
That's one thing that a lot of us at Greenstone believe, that without the ability to build condos, we will not solve the housing crisis in the Inland Northwest, because you have to lower the threshold of homeownership for people. And, you know, single family front entry homes is not how a first-time home buyer is going to enter the market at this point. I have a 22-year-old daughter, which is mind-blowing, but you know, she's not going to buy a home maybe till she's 30. Like there is no starter homes out there. And so condos would be a huge way to do that. And that is something we're very passionate about being able to offer. And we would do it. And that's the first piece is the condo legislation. The second piece is getting zoning changes, because, you know, some people don't think that a condo can be built in an urban neighborhood. So as example, out here, here is Liberty Lake. We have a community called River District. And if we can, condo laws changed, and we have the right zoning. We thought foresight when we did this master plan, but to be able to build condos in a neighborhood like that absolutely blends with single family homes. Like there is a way to do it. And I think we've proven that with townhomes. We do a lot of townhome product. Anyways, I could go on for a rant.
No.
Well, I think it also comes back to what we talked about last week with community, right? Like part of the passion of the Greenstone community is to have the diversity in entry, right? Like, so it's going to be easier for me to start out in an apartment and then move into ownership of a condo, and then be able to move from condo to either a small cottage type product or to a full on house. Because the reality is, and we've used this phrase several times in our personal life and then on this show, is like, you just got to get on the escalator somewhere, right? And so then as things are moving up, now all of a sudden I can sell my condo, take my appreciation and debt service for paying down my loan there, and I can roll that into the next project. And so I agree 100%. The other piece of legislation that I don't know where it's going that has to do with condos is if it's 2 stories or fewer and less than 10,000 square feet or some large square footage, there was some sort of an engineering thing that they're trying to get eliminated so that you can build without having to bring the one person from Seattle over to Spokane at an additional $150,000 or $200,000 trip visit. So that's the one I was talking about, where he recently testified in favor of that because it didn't make sense for a small condo building.
And I don't know if that one did or did not pass. There was
I don't know if it's done yet. I think it still might be in one house or the other, but.
So that one may still be hopeful, but there was another one.
Yeah, the one that will help condo all around.
Yeah.
So some questions we've prepped her for a little bit. Say, hey, just so you know, we're going to ask you the history of Greenstone. This one I did not prep her for. So if you don't have anything for this, it's totally fine. But I just, I'm very curious about, do you get developers from other other counties, other states that say, teach us your ways?
So I know a few different developers, no one locally, because we're all swimming in the same pool. But there have been some different developers and builders that have contacted Greenstone and wanted to come and tour and hear from them about how they've done it. But we do the same thing. And I think that is a good thing to recognize, is that it's okay to look at somebody else and going, whoa, you're doing this. Because I think in every walk of life, and especially in real estate, people have the scarcity mentality. Yes. And there's not enough, and there is enough. And there's enough for us to be successful. And there's enough for this builder partner that we have on the East Coast to be successful. And there's enough. And so, yes, people have come here, but we've gone other places. 3 years ago, maybe now, COVID timelines. Anyways, we worked with a consultant out of BC, and they came down and, you know, spent a whole week touring everything we have to help us fine tune as we continue to grow and as we start new communities. So yes.
That was my next question. If you guys have gone outside of your own ideas, because obviously Jim Frank is an ideas man. I mean, he is a serious visionary. But I was just curious if you had, you know, how does that influence go back and forth? And that's so great because you see other cities and other places where we're doing something unique and wonderful that is adding to the, you know, to the tapestry of that city, and to be able to bring that back and weave that into Spokane must be really cool.
Yeah. So in 2005, Jim went on a trip. I can't remember where now, somewhere in the Midwest. I do know that much. And while he was there, he saw, so we used to build what we call a snout house, where your garage is way out here and then your home sits back this way.
Yes.
You know, you just like basically shove a garage on the front of your house. And that's what everybody did because it's a very efficient way, cost savings wise, to build. So he went on this trip. He saw that people were pulling the garages back to be almost even with their front porch and creating a totally different look. So he came back. Every single home plan we were building, they stopped and they recreated all new ones because he didn't want to build like that anymore. So it's kind of cool. So River District, which is in Liberty Lake, was around then. And you can drive down a street and you can see where we're like the dividing line. Like they stopped building those kinds of homes and here's our new kind of house. Like it's interesting. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And you know, okay, I know we're totally going off here, but I just think about the legacy that Jim Frank can drive through those neighborhoods, and you can drive through those neighborhoods and be proud and not go, gosh, I'm so sad we didn't change our ways, you know, when I thought about it. Now you can, you know, see those neighborhoods and be proud. You mentioned that, you know, 2 trees on it at every house, you know, in 20 years, they're all going to look like the South Hill.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, it's going to be pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to get off of my, you know, rabbit trail.
We need to hear about Greenstone and its
the history of Greenstone.
Okay.
We'd like to know a little bit about that.
So here's kind of the quick version of our origin story, I'll call
Okay.
it. So Jim Frank is a local Spokane guy. He was born and raised here. And he went on to become a lawyer and still lived in Spokane and was working as a development attorney.
Wait. He went where?
He became a lawyer. Is that what you said?
He became a lawyer. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And stayed in Spokane and was working for developers, doing that type of law. And he kind of saw what they were doing and thought, I can do this better. And there was one project in particular, I don't remember which one it is, but where he saw what their plan was and he said, nope, I can do that. So that spurred him into becoming a developer. And then as he was developing the communities, he thought, well, I don't like what they're doing and how they're building the homes. So then he became a home builder. So
Wow.
that's kind of like our origin story. Some of our first projects, like our master plan community projects, one would either be Coeur d'Alene Place. We started that in 1994, but really Jim's first vision was Liberty Lake. He partnered with a landowner here and had the vision with this landowner to come up with basically all of Liberty Lake, if you really boil it down. It was the first of his many great visions. And the cool thing is, so Joe is Jim's son, and Joe now is kind of our day-to-day leader. And Joe has watched his dad do all this, learned it all, and is now carrying it forward. So it's a cool thing.
So when I said that Liberty Lake was the first time I was aware of Greenstone, it's because it was the first big development. That makes sense.
Well, and I mean, I grew up in the valley, so Liberty Lake was nothing for a lot. No, I mean, it was nothing. It was like a tiny nothing of a little, like we didn't, the town, I don't even remember the town. Like we would go to the lake and swim at the public beach at the lake.
It's kind of the house that Jim built though.
Well, you stole my phrase. I was going to say it was the
I literally wrote it down right here, everybody. I wrote it down.
Town that Jim built.
I said,
house.
I said house, but that's the way you say it.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. One of the things that you said, and I may have written it down wrong, but his kind of Jim Frank's kind of vision, if you will, is that everyone deserves to live in, I can't remember how you finished that.
A good neighborhood.
A good neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously important for him to kind of is that original visionary of the communities that he was building, open spaces, parks, trails. I know you can't speak for Jim, but from what you know of him and kind of his journey, like, was that always there? Was there kind of an epiphany moment? Like, what caused him to be willing to maybe make less money? And because it seems like if you're going to take some of the dirt and you're going to turn it into parks and green spaces, then you can't build houses there.
Right. I would say that. So Jim has a big family, like he himself has sibling groups. And I've gotten to meet a majority of them because a lot of them are involved somehow with Greenstone or just in passing or at company events. And I would say that they were born with it, honestly, just in the way that they were raised. One of the cool things, they lived in the neighborhood, and Jim talks about this, and it depending upon how he tells it, sometimes it makes me want to cry. Like, he lived in a neighborhood and it wasn't in the best part of town. And on his street, there were teachers, there were doctors, there were lawyers, there were mailmen, and everybody lived together in that same street. And it didn't matter kind of what you did, and it didn't matter your background. And everybody knew each other and everybody looked out for each other. Mm-hmm. And that was important to him. And he talks about, like, the neighborhood kids just being gone until 7 o'clock at night and coming home, and, like, the ideal childhood.
Yeah.
And I think that recreating that for other people was more important than the bottom dollar. And I see that every day in our business, where doing what's right is more important than the money.
Yeah,
that's
good.
Awesome. I love that.
Powerful.
So we want to talk about a couple of communities, and we want to first start with Kendall Yards, which Kendall Yards is one of the gems of Spokane. And the interesting thing is that Matt and I have been in real estate or investing in real estate we are getting closer to 20 years. Matt likes to say 20 years, but he's been saying that for 3 years.
20 years. This November 30th was the first investment property we ever bought. So I think we're almost at 20.
I think, actually, yeah. Anyway, we're not going to get into that argument right now.
We're not going to waste your time arguing.
The county assessor and find out.
That's right. So the thing about it is that we've always, when the new projects come about, we look at that. We've followed Jim Frank and what he's done. And Kendall Yards was planned a long time ago by a completely different developer. I don't know if everybody knows that, but it was like in the plans, and it was kind of like one of those things that, like, is this ever really going to happen? Like, I think that we were hopeful because it was like this amazing piece of land that's just abandoned, and it's, but it's prime real estate overlooking the river. And then it sounded like it was falling apart. And there was definitely, for Matt and I, we were really sad about that. And then we hear this rumor that Jim Frank is going to pick up the torch, take over, and even still call it Kendall Yards, which I always thought was. So can you tell us a little bit about that? And
yes. So, go back and listen to last week, because we like to name things based on some kind of history. So the reason we kept the name Kendall Yards is because that is what the train station there was called, Kendall Yards, where they parked all the trains. That was its name. And so, that had been the idea of the previous developer, to name it that. And because Jim loves history and was keeping that part of, like, the land story intact, Kendall Yards sticks.
Love it.
Yeah, which is great. He was, Greenstone as a company, we were able to survive a catastrophic downturn, and we are very conservative. And because of those diligences, we had the money to be able to come in and buy a project in a time when most people are like, sell stuff. And
right.
We were very fortunate and had the right partners to be able to purchase Kendall Yards. And that's how we got it.
Was it kind of in foreclosure? Is that, can you disclose that?
I don't know. I can't talk about that.
Okay. I will just guess, though this is completely a guess. I would guess that there was some distress.
Yeah,
in that owner, and they needed to get out.
It was owned by Metropolitan Mortgage.
Met Mortgage.
So
we know all about that.
knows what's going on with Met Mortgage. So whatever else went on, there was some distress, I think, in that situation.
If you notice, Met Mortgage does not exist anymore here in Spokane.
Anyway, that's a history lesson for a different day.
A whole nother hour.
Yeah, easily.
But yeah, I mean, you guys, did you have a bunch of cleanup that you had to do with the train yards being there and stuff, or how did that?
So this was before my time, but I'm fairly certain what I've heard is that it had already been cleaned up by the time we got it.
Okay.
The previous developer had already done that part. And so it was not as much for us when we started. Yeah.
Here's the cool thing. I have lived in a neighborhood near another neighborhood where we weren't technically allowed to enjoy the park that was there. Like they had a sign that said, "This is for these residents only." And it was very irritating to me. But one of the things that sticks out to me, especially about Kendall Yards, is I go there just to have a walk.
Yep.
I will meet my sister there and we'll go for a walk, or we'll take the kids, or my mom and, or my dad and my stepmom are in town. Like that's where we want to go to just hang out, grab an ice cream cone, but just sit on this. And I love that it has become a community. It's a place for the whole city to enjoy, not just the people who live there, not a gated thing,
Right. And that ties back into the overall vision of Greenstone is community, and a community isn't just for one group or one person, it's for everyone. And so Kendall Yards is a great example of that. Like the population that can live there versus who can enjoy it is different, and that's okay. And that park there, it's not a city park. That park is owned by the Greenstone HOA. So that, but that park is for everyone. So I can't.
We took our family picture there, like our whole. So all of my siblings, I have a bunch of siblings and a bunch of kids. There's like 30 people in that picture underneath the
gazebo thing.
The gazebo thing was great. It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Okay, so the other project that we do want to talk about is the Mead project, the Kaiser.
What is it called? I'm sure there's a name for it. That's not the Kaiser project.
There is. This is going to be called Mead Works. That is an echo back to the Kaiser plant. Kaiser used to call that plant Mead Works. And so the land north of it, which is what we are going to be purchasing, is called Mead Works. That's our community.
Love it.
Awesome.
Love it.
I'm really excited about this. Like I saw the article in the Spokesman early in the year, and I brought it up in our January, February episode, which was part of my inspiration to reach out to you and say, hey, would you be willing to do a show with us? So talk to us about kind of the vision of this community. Go.
Yeah. Okay. So this has been like a 7-year relationship where Joe reached out to Kaiser and said, hey, you got some land and it's a nice piece. And over 7 years has cultivated a relationship and sought them out to try and get them to sell it to us. So that's another just random tangent about Greenstone. We're all about relationships. And so for sure that plays right into this. So through that kind of courting phase, we were able to secure it. We will have a change of use hearing in May, because currently most of the land is zoned for 55 plus. And we need to do a change of use because we're not going to build all just 55 plus. But Mead Works is going to be about a 15-year project for us. In the end, it'll have 1,500 residential units, and that's apartments, townhomes, cottages, single family. All of that will be in there.
Wow.
So what you're telling me is your job is secure.
Yay. I'm gonna have a job.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now I know that Jim Frank has a statement because specifically this is like there's some environmental things here. And so I was hoping that you could read that statement to us about that.
So one of the questions people talk about a lot is project cleanup. So here's the statement in effect to that. There's a cleanup progression on the smelter site, which is south of our Mead Works site, that is managed by EPA and DOE. That will be completed soon. There's a stormwater pond on the Mead Works site that has been cleaned up and removed. EPA and DOE have supervised the cleanup, and when completed and inspected, will issue a no further action letter, meaning that the cleanup has been completed and passed final EPA inspection. This is the same process that was used in Kendall Yards.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, that's a big job. I mean, that's a simple statement, but that's a big job to do that.
Yeah. And it's something that Kaiser has been working on and doing for years. It wasn't just like, somebody wants to buy it, we should do this. No.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
no, the EPA has been kind of on them to get that cleaned up anyway.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then the other question that comes up is potential regarding the concerns regarding the aquifer. And so, anyways, I'm just going to read the statement about that.
Oh, great. Read another statement. I like it.
Yes. Part of the property is located in the Whitworth Water District, and part is located in the Spokane County Water District, number 3. Both districts have confirmed that they have adequate capacity to serve the project. A couple of Spokane County Water District's wells located in the Mead Township were contaminated and taken out of use some years ago. They're being replaced with a new well located west of the Newport Highway.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think about, you know what, honestly, over the last 20 years, my husband and I have discussed every possible real estate thing that we could be involved in, and development, of course, came across our mind. And I hear you say that, all of those things, and I think, oh man, I'm so glad I don't have a development. That seems like
it's obviously not everybody does it, and not everybody does it well. And I think that that's an important thing to like. There are many people, as you mentioned, in the early 2000 downturn that never recovered and will never build again. Like that completely took them out, and they're done. And so I appreciate because in the early 2000s, Greenstone was one of the top builders in the entire state of Washington, period. Like West Side, Seattle, didn't matter where. I mean, that organization was building a lot of houses.
Wow. Okay, I have 2 quick questions for you here at the end. Okay, so just very quickly, what is your most challenging project, and which one is the closest to being completed? Because obviously these other ones are going to take 15 years. So like we got to have something closer that we can be excited about.
We'll talk about the one closest to completion first. So that's Rocky Hill. Rocky Hill is in Liberty Lake, and it's an extension of the Meadowwood neighborhood, which is kind of what started Liberty Lake. And we'll open the final phase, which is weird to say, here in Rocky Hill in August or September if they get the paving done in time. So that's the last, and it's the last of the lots. There's 31.
That's a whole cycle right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's kind of weird to see like this, his first giant project coming to a close. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, now most challenging.
Well, most challenging currently would be Coeur d'Alene Place. And in a large part, that's due to the shift in, well, it's crazy town. I mean, it is crazy town. If you're a realtor and listening to this, I understand it is crazy town.
Okay, well, really, really quickly, because we don't have a lot of time left. Right now, currently,
we got a couple minutes. We're good.
Coeur d'Alene is the #1 market in the country.
As of Tuesday of last week, because of when we're recording this, Wall Street Journal and Realtor.com released a report, #1 market in the United States. So yes, it's crazy town.
Yeah.
Okay.
So factor crazy town against lumber prices have increased 177% since April of 2020. And then, a whole bunch of other like stats I could throw at you, but you couple those things together, it is insane. And it, you know, people say, oh, it must be so easy for you or so nice for you. It is not easy, and it is not nice. You know, 20 offers on a home is not fun. It's not fun for a individual selling. It's not fun for a company selling. It is just not fun. And that means that there's 19 people who are sad every time. So that's the challenges in Coeur d'Alene, and the, you know, concerns are real, and I don't know how to combat this. And this could be a whole nother show of, you know, so here's another stat. 45% of our sales here in 2021 have been from out-of-town buyers, 45%.
Wow.
So especially that number is higher if I look at only Idaho, but that's for overall Greenstone. So there's a lot of frustration from locals about how are we going to afford a home, and I don't have a solution. So I guess I have one solution. We are breaking news. We are building condos in Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, great.
They should be for sale this fall.
Wow.
So it'll be and so that's going to be that lower point of entry for people. So, you know, if you already live in Coeur d'Alene, you can sell your current home for a pretty penny. You may not then be able to step up, but at least you can step into something.
Yeah.
Wait it out. And yeah.
I feel like we could do a whole other episode with you, Sharla. We should probably do that at some point, but we do need to wrap it up today. If you're interested in a Greenstone home, just go to greenstone.com. You'll find plenty of information there. What's your email?
You can contact me at info@greenstonehomes.com.
Perfect. Excellent. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.